Hello, and welcome to another Friday Night Scary Stories. Tonight's story is based on a true historical story. If you have a story plot you would like to share, please contact me on Messenger or down in the comments below. I hope everyone had a fabulous Thanksgiving yesterday. And in light of Thanksgiving, I decided to tell you the true story of the secret of Duffy's cut. So without further ado, let's get to it. Every Thanksgiving, when the Watson family gathered around the long wooden table in their grandfather's old Philadelphia home, the boys knew that after the turkey, after the pies, after the grown-ups finished their slow-drifting conversations, that their grandfather would tell them a story, not one of those silly ones, not one of those harmless ones, but the story. Bill and Frank were still small at the time they first heard it. They remembered the crackle of the fireplace, the amber glow on the grandfather's spectacles, the way his voice dipped low as if someone outside might be listening. "There's a place," he began, "out on the old railroad line, a place called Duffy's Cut. The railroad buried something there, something it didn't want found." The boys leaned in. Grandfather never exaggerated. His job with the Pennsylvania Railroad was serious work, filled with documents, rules, and handshakes from executives who wore heavy suits and smelled like cigar smoke. "What's buried there?" Bill whispered. Their grandfather hesitated. "Men," he finally said. "Irish men, hard-working men who came here looking for a better life. They suddenly died, so suddenly that the company feared and panicked." "And what the railroad did after?" Grandpa shook his head. "I've kept the files. Someday you'll understand, but until then, boys, remember this. The ground out there keeps its secrets." And that was the end of it. The adults cleared the dishes. The story drifted away like chimney smoke. But Bill and Frank never forgot it. Years passed. The boys had grown up into men. Bill became a historian, Frank a pastor. Their grandfather, older and frailer each year, told the story less and less each holiday. And one winter, he was gone. After the funeral, as the family sorted through his belongings, the brothers found a thin, dusty file tucked inside a locked metal box. On the label, in faded pencil, were the words, "Duffy's Cut 59. Bill felt a chill. When they looked inside, there were letters, reports, and a typed summary marked confidential. The documents described a crew of 57 Irish immigrant laborers hired in 1832 to work on a remote stretch of the Philadelphia and Columbia Railroad. Within just weeks of their arrival, they were all dead. One report said cholera, but the other document warned of local unrest, strong anti-Irish sentiment, and the company's desire to avoid public embarrassment. The worst of all, though, was one memo that read, "The incident must remain closed." Frank looked up. "Grandfather knew," he said quietly. "And he wanted us to know," Bill replied. The brothers could have left the mystery alone, but their grandfather had entrusted them with something more than paperwork. He had handed them a responsibility, so they went to the site. Duffy's Cut was little more than a triangle of weeds besides an overgrown rail embankment, a place where commuters sped past without a glance. Bill carried maps and copies of the old letters. Frank carried a small wooden cross. They walked the line, searching for the place where the men's shanty might have stood. One night, an elderly local man approached them. "You looking for the Irish graves?" he asked. "How do you know about them?" Bill said. "My father used to talk about the lights down there, figures in the mists. Folks said the spirits walk the hill." He pointed into the trees. "If you're searching, start there." So in 2004, with help from archaeologists, students, and volunteers, they began excavation. When they opened the first pit, Bill found himself staring at the curved outline of a skull. The remains were not alone. Over weeks and months, they uncovered buttons, boots, and fragments of clothing. Shanty debris that matched the description in the railroad files. More human bones, men aged roughly 18 to 30. Even a clay pipe bearing markings from Donegal. But then everything changed. The skull they found had fractures. A forensic scientist said these were not caused by cholera. Some of these men suffered blunt force injuries and violence. Was that the bad thing their grandfather had hinted at? The kind the railroad wanted buried? Piece by piece, the brothers assembled the truth. The cholera outbreak had swept the camp. Local fear of disease, combined with anti-Irish prejudice, had turned the workers into targets. The men were quarantined, abandoned, and possibly attacked as they tried to escape the shanty. The railroad buried them quickly to avoid scandal. And then, for nearly 2 centuries, the world forgot them. But Bill and Frank never had. The brothers' work led to proper Catholic burials for the recovered remains. They identified several workers as young men from Donegal. They erected memorials and told their story, the one their grandfather could never fully tell. And in the end, Duffy's cut was no longer a secret in the ground. It was history. It was truth. It was a promise kept by 2 brothers who had once listened, wide-eyed, to a whispered Thanksgiving tale. Thanks for watching another Friday night spooky campfire story. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'll leave a link for last week's story in the description below. If you like this kind of stuff, there's also a playlist of all the Friday night stories. We'll see you again next week.